Well, good morning. I didn't know I was on. Didn't show the counter didn't move for 4 or 5 seconds there. Anyhow, how are you all? It's Wednesday, January 21st. I'm 5 days into my 80th year, and I still feel like shit. I don't know. Except that the weather's really rough on anybody down here right now. I got a fan going. You may or may not hear that in the background. It's a small fan, but it makes a lot of noise. It's just impossible here right now. The heat is unbelievable for me, and I love the heat. Being in the shade, it's fine. You go out in that sun, you can cook in it. I mean, seriously. Throw an egg on the ground, it's going to cook. I've seen them. I've seen dead stuff cooking. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I'm going to sit here and suffer and sweat while I talk to you. Let's go. Now, let me see what was I going to talk about first. Oh, Trump gets to Greenland, starts a speech, and keeps saying Iceland instead of Greenland when he's talking about which country he wants to take over. The man's a menace. Now, some European countries think he's faking it, and that it's just a game he's playing. Another way of distracting people from the reality of him being an asshole. Other people think he's losing his mind. Either way, he's an embarrassment. But apparently, those in power, including those in the background, the authors of Project 2025, think he's perfect for this stuff. Somebody's going to take a whack at him again. I hope they don't miss this time, but we'll see what happens. Because he's too far out of control. If this isn't an act, and this is him losing his mind and being erratic, isn't a joke. It's a serious problem. His own party's going to take him out sooner or later. You know. They do that sort of stuff. I got this deep-rooted problem where I don't like any politicians now. I'm not really, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I fancy myself an independent. If there was a good Republican, I'd vote for him. But there isn't any good Republicans right now. Because they're not the Republican Party. They're the Project 2025 authors party. And nothing's going to change until the economic situations change. Until people start losing tremendous amounts of money because of Trump. Which is beginning to happen with the stock market. But, you see him talking and I don't think he knows what he's talking about. When I say that, I don't know whether he knows what the conversation's supposed to be about that he's talking about. You know what I mean? I don't know, that sounds even crazier than he does. But that's, you're walking around and you're calling the country you want to invade Iceland, and it's really Greenland. That's stupidity. Now here's a little thing that nobody seems to be paying attention to. Article that we have reached the level of what they call water bankruptcy, and it's irreversible in some cases. So you look at that and you say, well, what are you talking about? Well, basically it means that we've overextended ourselves in the use of water. We've never really thought about replenishing what we're stealing. And it's a problem because you're going to have to choose between irrigation and drinking. And bathing and stuff like that. Well, bathing I can do without that. That's no big deal. You smell like shit. People like me, old people, we're going to start smelling really bad when we take our showers. But anyhow, this is going to bring about something, I think, horribly. We talk about movies imitating the future, but you ever see the movie Soylent Green? Soylent Green's deals with overpopulation, and that every so often, once a year, they have people volunteering to commit suicide. to get rid of the population, which is in itself is kind of a mistake, because you should just take all the old people out. You turn a certain age, that's it. I'm 80 years old. What else am I planning on accomplishing in my life? So if that's the case, yeah, why not? So long as the life insurance companies pay off, See, that's the problem. That's what stops something like that from happening now. That's why people live and suffer, because they can't commit suicide, because if they do, they lose the benefits to their families. Well, pension companies won't pay off, insurance companies won't pay off if you commit suicide. Whether it's assisted suicide, for medical reasons or what, that's it, And I can understand that, because there'd be a lot of people trying to, make you look like you committed suicide. I don't know. But that water bankruptcy thing is probably much more important than whether Trump takes Greenland or not, or if Trump's Golden Dome goes into effect, or if Trump's new ballroom gets completed. But according to the politicians, and as you watch these things, it ain't important. So I don't know, folks. The people that were out there talking about this, is he a madman or isn't he a madman? One thing they're beginning to realize is that Trump is capable of anything at any time. Now, is that a smart man, or is that just a crazy motherfucker? I'm going with crazy motherfucker myself, because I just think he's not well. I don't think he ever was well, because his ego. When you have an ego like him, it's difficult to maintain the proper status for that ego. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just the way I'm headed. What can I tell you? I'm nuts. We know that, That's just the way things are. But you look around and you see what's going on, and you really want to get confused. Start reading the YouTube articles, and you see them, and I sit there and I say, where are they getting this information? Wait a minute, I watched that show. He didn't say that, and it's called selective editing. They take out what they want you to find, but you don't know whether that's accurate, because it just doesn't make any sense. The use of them paying people for content is a little crazy. My content isn't paid for by anybody except it only costs me what it costs me for my internet feeds. Okay, I don't pay for editing or anything like that. And everybody says, well, you could make so much more. I don't want to make a lot of money. I want to be truthful. I want to be honest. That's just the way it is, okay? I enjoy doing it. It's fun for me. It allows me to express myself, and my true feelings, and it keeps my mind alert, because I have to think of this stuff. I can't just shoot shit off from my mouth. I have to think about what movie was that, or if I'm talking about history or something, then in retrospect, does that movie reflect what's going on now? Well, nobody wants to see what I see in those movies, but that's okay. So I'm sitting here, and I'm saying to myself, I read articles, I read cartoons, like, one of them is saying, he says, something like this, I'm paraphrasing this, that the more I look around and I study the human race, I understand why Moses only took animals on board. And if you notice that, did anybody ever notice that, really? It was his family, and if that's the case, then everybody on this planet is a descendant of Moses' family. Okay? Because that supposedly the Great Flood killed everybody except those people that were on the ark. So if that's true, then everybody on the planet is a descendant of Moses' family. And there was a whole lot of fucking going on to get 300 million people just in the United States. So, think about that. That's what some things that are said don't make any sense, Because when you watch that, when you read that, there's no people being selected to be on the ark. And as far as I know, nobody else survived but the people on the ark, according to the Bible. Now, I may be wrong because I don't remember half the stuff I read in the Bible. I read that book as a child, so, what can I tell you? But anyhow, sitting around trying to think of things to talk about on this show is difficult. I try to keep it to 15 minutes because I deal with the statistics and I know how I feel. If I watch something and I'm bored at 15 minutes, wow, it's like going to church. Have you ever noticed? Look around you at the 10-minute, start at the 10-minute mark of the eulogy or whatever the priest is. What do they call that when he stands up there and talks up there? I don't know. I call it eulogy. I don't think that's right. That's for dead people, I think. But anyhow, when you hit the 10-minute mark, you see people starting to fall asleep. So first of all, I don't know how you do that because a church pew is one of the most uncomfortable chairs in the world. But people fall asleep. You look around and they're like, And as soon as something's said, they open their eyes up, they applaud, they say amen, whatever. They're like semi-conscious. And the longer the priest talks, the more you see people. And occasionally you'll hear in the church, because the guy's just, that's it. He's just gone too far. And I've watched priests hit 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I watched one priest hit 40 minutes, and I swear to God, half the place was snoring. And people got up and left. Because, well, they had places to be. Church is a stop on the way someplace else. You don't plan to spend, some religions, you spend the whole day there. But in the Catholic religion, you don't. You go and they got another mass or a communion or a burial or a baptism or something. You go at 12, they got stuff, 5 after 1, you got to be out of the church. You got to clear the building, folks. Otherwise, the whole schedule gets screwed up. So, when they don't have anything planned after say, what is it, 12 to 1, they usually figure that's how long it's going to take. When they don't have anything planned after 1 o'clock, that's when these guys get up there and decide they can talk all day. But who cares? I went to church I used to go to church with my girlfriend and what have you. And then I kept going afterwards because I thought maybe I'd get my girlfriend back. That's just, stupidity. But anyhow, I used to go what they call a 4 o'clock mass in the afternoon on Sunday. The mass was almost like at halftime of the game, the late game or something like that. I had a priest that could get us home before halftime was over. He didn't have anything to say. He said everybody else said it already. And this was like his 5th mass of the day, and he was, he's looking for a cocktail. So, he didn't mess around. He just, gone, get out. Okay, well, that's the way it should be. Really. You're supposed to sit there and contemplate your sins. Well, for some people, they just get horny. But for some people, it's just so boring they fall asleep. And there are people, most of them older, that are there. They're really intensely about it because they have the fear of death. And death is the great unknown, in case you haven't figured that out yet. All right? what's going to happen when you die? Am I going to heaven or hell? Nobody's around to tell you. Don't ask questions you're not going to get answered. Okay? Go along as far long as you can. When it's time to go, check out, pay your bill, and leave. Okay, that's it. I'm done for today. We'll catch you tomorrow. I got to go do a live video now. And so we'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button before you leave. I'm getting pissed. I'm -1 for 28 days in subscribers. That's not doing it, folks. Come on, you got to get your act together if you want to keep hearing me. All right, take care. We'll see you tomorrow.